Perek Ches Mishnah Beis. Now the next 5 Mishnahs Beis through to Vav, discuss the prohibition of eating and drinking on Yom Kippur. Mishnah Beis, our Mishnah, discusses the quantity of food or drink that renders a person chayav. And when a person is chayav, that means it's a chiyuv koris. If a person eats or drinks on Yom Kippur, amazed, the chiyuv, the liability involved, is a chiyuv koris. If he does it b'shogeg, then it's a chiyuv chatos. He'll have to bring a korban chatos. So says the Mishnah, ha'oichel kukuseves hagaso. If someone eats the amount of food which is equivalent to the volume of a large date, kamoiha uchigarinoso, like it with its pit, v'hasheisem lo lugmav, or someone drinks lo lugmav, which literally means a cheekful, chayav. That means that if you were to drink some liquid and you were to push it to the one side and your cheek would extend, it would sort of all fill one side of your cheek, that is a lo lugmav. Now, what are the shiurim for these? Well, the koseves, the date with the garin, with the pit, is larger than a kazayas, but it's smaller than a kabetza. And similarly, well, the molin lugmav is different to the standard share of a revius. It's actually less than a revius. So the question, of course, is why, when it comes to Yom Kippur, do we have these shiurim different to the normal shiurim? The normal share for eating purposes, for other isurim, would be a kazayas, and for drinking purposes would be a revius. So how come, when it comes to Yom Kippur, the share for eating on Yom Kippur is a koseves, which is bigger than a revius, than a kazayas, and how come the share for drinking is a lugmav, which is smaller than a revius? So the answer the Gemara gives is this. The Torah doesn't actually use the word achila or shtia with regard to the prohibition of eating and drinking on Yom Kippur. Rather, the Gemara uses the lashon of inui. The pasuk says, "Kol hanefesh asher lo yisu'una be'etzem hayom hazeh." You shouldn't afflict yourself. And Chazal was certain, they knew, that with regard to a koseves, a person will not be satisfied if he eats less than this amount. There won't be a yishuv hadas, there won't be this satiation if you eat less than that. So if a person eats a kazayas, which is the normal share for an issa, there won't be that yishuv hadas. That's not considered that he's still inui, he's still afflicted because he's not satisfied. However, if he were to eat a little bit more, he would eat a koseves, a date size, then he would have this yishuv hadas, and then he's no longer afflicting himself. Similarly, with regard to a mlo lugmav, a person would be satiated, would have that yishuv hadas, even if he drinks a small amount, as small as a mlo lugmav, which is smaller than a revius. That would give him that yishuv hadas. Incidentally, the share for the mlo lugmav is subjective. In other words, it depends on the size of the person. It's the cheekful of liquid. So it depends. If a bigger person will be a slightly bigger amount, and a smaller person will be a smaller amount. What exactly are these shiurim in sort of contemporary parlance? So the answer from Mishnah says as follows. The amount given for a koseves, a date, is between 1.1 and 1.7 ounces, or between 30 and 48 grams. It's a subject to some machlokas hapoiskim, but around that sort of amount. With regard to mlo lugmav, he gives between 1.4 and 1.5 fluid ounces, or between 40 and 42 cubic centimeters. Those are the shiurim. Okay, continues the Mishnah. So if he does this, his chayav, it's a chiyuv koris. Interestingly, there is an important machlokas that whilst a person would be chayav koris for eating these amounts, what would if he would eat less than the amount? Would there be an issa d'oraisa? Of course, there would be no chiyuv koris because he's eaten less than a koseves or drank less than the mlo lugmav. But what if he has half a koseves? Is there an issa d'oraisa for that? So that is the machlokus in the Gemara. The Gemara brings the machlokus Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, and the Gemara says there that according to Rabbi Yochanan, chatzi shir is also min haTorah. And therefore, even if a person were to eat half a koseves, for example, then he would still be over an issa d'oraisa, but there would be no koris. Reish Lakish, however, is of the opinion that there is chatzi shir is mutter min haTorah. Therefore, min haTorah at least, it would be mutter for a person to eat less than that amount. But of course, min Rabbanan, Chazal asked even a minute amount of eating on Yom Kippur, unless of course it's for extenuating circumstances, etc. Okay, continues the Mishnah. Kol ha'ichlin mitztarfin l'koseves. All foods combine to get this amount of a koseves. So, for example, if a person ate half a koseves, half a date of fruit and half a date of meat, together they combine and the person would be chayiv. And similarly, all liquids join together to get this share of a maloi lugmav, of a cheekful. So if a person, for example, had half a maloi lugmav of water and half a maloi lugmav of wine, then he would be chayiv. However, you can't join the two together. So for example, if a person had half a dateful of bread and had half a maloi lugmav of water, you can't combine that together, and therefore he would not be chayiv kares min ha-Torah. That is the end of Mishnah base.